You're with Newsmakers. On the panel, Chris Hutching, Sheryl Sutherland and Antony Gough. Well, nothing aggravates retailers more than the prospect of being stripped of roadside car parks, and dozens of parking spaces are set to disappear to clear the way for cycle lanes and some trees. Lots of trees on Madras and Barbados streets. Is this plan for the greater good, Mr. Gough?
Absolutely not. It is totally unnecessary. If you want to destroy the centre city, take the car parking away. I do not see the use of it. Our roads are congested without taking big chunks of cycleways in those one-way streets. Do not agree with it. Losing 150 car parks, that will really hurt the businesses in Madras and Barbados Street.
All right. Sheryl, when I look down Madras Street or Barbados at the moment, it is a rather austere streetscape. Is there a crying need for more greenery, more trees?
Oh yes, I'm a great believer in more trees, and I don't agree with you, Antony, about the car parks, I'm sorry to say. We've got over 30,000 car parks in the central city, and that is way more per capita than any other major city. The other issue is that if you are on your bike, you can't do much shopping. You can't even carry a pair of shoes, for goodness sake, unless you've got a little trolley behind it or whatever, and one wouldn't do that because it wouldn't be a good look. But the other issue I have is with what they're putting in more bus lanes. We've tried the bus lane issue, and it cost well over $80,000, as I recall, and then we decided that it was no good, so we flagged that. So the whole thing seems like a mess, and it's typical from an outside observer looking in of the piecemeal approach that the council seems to have to inner city growth. Oh, and then of course there's the $80,000 or $800,000 they're spending on car parks for themselves. I mean, it just really doesn't make sense, does it?
It's a bit of a three-ring circus, really, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But it's good for shows like this, I hasten to add. Chris, do you think the general makeover idea is solid, is good, or dopey?
Oh, well, I suppose it's nice to have a few trees, but you're right, Sheryl, when you say that it's a piecemeal approach. Now, the reason that they have to take the car parking away is because they don't want to actually spend real money creating curbs that would keep cyclists like me, who uses his bike a lot, safe. So they want to put a few paint pots of signs down there. They have to do away with the car parking. I agree with Antony that it will kill the central city. That seems to be intent on what they're trying to do. I've received 4 parking fines in the last month, and frankly, I'm not going to shop in here anymore.
Well, since you are a peddler, can I just put a possible compromise to you? And I'm hoping this may warm the cockles of Antony's heart as well. What I don't get is, OK, let's help the cyclist and give them a dedicated cycle lane. But why the hell do they need a cycle lane on both sides of Madras Street and Barbados, as is proposed in the plan? Surely we could save some car parks by only giving them 1 cycle lane on the road, not 2. Why do they need 2 on a one-way street?
Have you made a submission?
No, I haven't yet.
I think you should.
I think they've closed, haven't they?
I think you've got the solution there.
Oh, OK, you reckon?
Well, yeah, I'd agree with you. I don't really see why. I mean, I'm sure that they could cross safely enough here and there.
Actually, the submission process is still open, isn't it, on the site?
I think it is,
I think it's just opened, I'm sorry, yes. Do you think there is a need for 2 cycle lanes on this road?
No, there's not. And we didn't have a separate lane for motorbikes and then a bus lane, and then we've got other things rolling on. You've got a truck lane, and suddenly you don't have anywhere for anyone. But yes, you're right. Doesn't need 2 cycle lanes. Yes, I think cycles are good, but not to the total detriment of removing all parking in that area.
All right. Well, there could be a compromise in the wings. Now, also on the local front, 22 months after the deal was done, the City Council has grudgingly coughed up the purchase cost of the Yardley Flower Show brand, $3 million. What is your reaction to the price tag, and was it a wise investment? Sheryl? I
think it was a lousy investment. They're not even going to continue to use the Yardley name, and I've got no idea why they're hiding behind commercial sensitivity and like phrases. The issue is the council and the councillors are employed by us. It is our dollars they are spending. We've got every right to know exactly where every cent goes. And I think it's extraordinary the way we're treated, the paternalistic fashion, I guess you could say, by the council and by the mayor whenever they make these sorts of purchases. And let's face it, a lot of the purchases they've made recently, certainly to people like me, seem to be incredibly bizarre. And this is just another example, the Hendo saga, which is still ongoing. is another issue. So again, I'm almost lost for words, Mike, which is a bit of a worry because that doesn't happen very often, does it?
It's not good for a show like this.
You laugh.
Antony, do you think it was a wise investment?
I think it was a wonderful investment. You shouldn't be looking at it over 1 year. You need to look at it over a 10 or 20-year period, and it has brought so much to the city. I believe it actually was a wise investment. But what I do agree with Sheryl is the sort of secrecy that was around it. I think you better be open and say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is why we're funding it this way. I think it was a great investment, but let's be a bit more open about what we're doing.
So I take it you would not agree with dear old David Cox, who thought this was a socialist and media beat-up?
No, I wouldn't.
Sorry, David. Just to play devil's advocate, and I think Bob Parker has made this analogy, we plough $360,000 per annum into the A&P show, which is our other signature event in Christchurch. Extrapolated over 10 years, the $3 million investment into Ellerslie surely looks like a very attractive investment when it comes to the economic and tourism windfall?
Well, we don't know because we haven't actually been told the whole story. There's another part to this deal that they're still keeping secret, and that is the management contract. Now, we have no idea of what their expenses are, what they're taking out of it, what margins. In fact, I don't even know how long it lasts for. So until they cough up, and I have to agree entirely with Sheryl, a lot of these councils now identify more with the council than they do with their own ratepayers. It is not their job to be part of the council organisation. It is their job to be a watchdog on our behalf.
I think we can safely assume, would you agree, Chris, that Mr. Me and co have done very well. Thank you very much.
I imagine so.
Yes. It reminds me of that book when I was a child, Mr. Mead in the Garden. This is like Mr. Me in the Garden of Christchurch. Yes. All right.
The other issue is too, Mike, we're known as the Garden City. We could have our own garden party, garden show and what have you. We could have ploughed $3 million into setting one up ourselves and then not have the issue of Auckland suddenly saying, OK, you've bought the Ellerslie show, we're now going to have another one. It just didn't make commercial sense.
All right.
But I'd have to say they've already tried that and it's not been successful. They've ploughed a lot of money in, trying to set one up.
Yeah, it didn't reach the same heights, did it?
No. Don't reinvent the wheel. Take somebody else's wheel that works. And I think they've done the right thing.
The debate will no doubt continue. Coming up, we'll have a look at our farewell to Sir Howard and who is the greatest living New Zealander. That's next.